Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're making sweet potato pie. Stay tuned. I'll also show you how to plate it. First thing, we're going to bring a pot of water to a boil. Before we add our sweet potatoes, we want to rinse those off. We all know how dirty sweet potatoes can be. So we're going to rinse them off. Add those to our boiling water. I did put a pinch of salt in here. Next, we're going to cool down our sweet potatoes. You can put them in the ice bath if you're in a rush, or you can just set them aside like I did and peel them. My sweet potatoes cook for about 45 minutes. You just want to make sure you can stick a fork or a knife through them. Make sure they're nice and soft and ready to go. Before we mix them with our hand mixer, I'm actually going to mash them up with a fork in the bowl so we can incorporate our ingredients a little easier without making a mess. Yes, you guys know I make a mess. So now that I got that down, let's start adding our ingredients. First things first, we're going to add 1.5 cups of white sugar. And I do want to note, I did not put the brown sugar in the video. I'm not sure why, but I did add brown sugar as well. This is my cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. All of the measurements will be in the description box. I have 5 tablespoons of melted butter. And I think I use about a half of cup, well, 1/4 to a half of cup of brown sugar. But here is the 1 tablespoon of cinnamon that I just added to my mixing bowl. And don't worry, because you can get the full ingredients list and measurements in my description box. I always make sure you guys have your notes and anything that I feel like I'm missing from the video, because I definitely want you guys to try it this way. And I don't want to leave anything out. So before we use our hand mixer, we're going to use our rubber spatula to kind of incorporate the ingredients just so they don't fly all over the place, because we're using a hand mixer. And we also want to keep that spatula near and dear because we're going to have to scrape the bowl a few times. So I'm going to keep that there. So now, looking for my hand mixer. Where are you? Here it is. So on medium high, I am basically, of course, as you can see, just mixing my sweet potato pie. And we still have a few more ingredients. We just don't want to add them all at once because we want this to get smooth and creamy. So that's why I added my nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla, allspice, sugar, brown sugar. We already did that. And our oven is on 350 degrees, preheating. And we're adding this mix to a homemade, flaky, buttery, sweet potato crust, well, pie crust, that I also did a video for you guys on my page if you want to find out how to make that from scratch. If not, store-bought is just fine. After we mix it, I was just trying to make sure it wasn't too warm because I don't want my eggs to cook. So here I'm adding 2 large eggs. Let's get that in the trash or out the way. I kind of like to clean as I go, which is kind of difficult sometimes when you're recording, but definitely keep your area clean to avoid bigger mess, cross-contamination, and a huge headache. So here on medium-low heat, on medium-low spin, I'm just mixing with my hand mixer those eggs up in there because we want to get those eggs nice and mixed. So we have 2 thickening agents, and this is the first one. The eggs will help thicken up our pie and keep it together. It's more of the glue, if you want to use that metaphor. And the flour that we're going to add is the thickening agent. So I have my flour here, and I have 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour that I already measured out. It's always good to get your ingredients together before you start, so you're not running around your kitchen. And every time before I use my hand mixer, as you can see, I use my rubber spatula to prevent losing any of my ingredients and to prevent making a huge mess. We only want a little mess. We don't want a huge mess. So after that, I am just removing a few things, and I'm going to add my last ingredient, which is my evaporated carnation canned milk. I know a lot of people use different milks. Some people even use orange juice. But here I'm adding the 1/2 cup of evaporated carnation milk, and it gives it that smooth. This is going to make it smooth and yummy. And we want to use our spatula again to kind of get it in there before we make a big splash. So we should be done. And now we're going to our last mixing. So again, my oven is on 350 degrees, and before I started this, I actually made my pie crust first. So that is in my refrigerator chilling. Because it's an all butter pie crust, you definitely want it to be cold so it can be nice and flaky. We don't have to pre-cook our pie crust. And like I said earlier in the video, if you guys want to buy store-bought pie crust, please do what you want. A beautiful cheat code if you don't want flour all over your kitchen. But to be honest, it's very cool to make at home. It's inexpensive. It's only 4 ingredients. And I do have that video up again. You can see it. I would watch that before this one if you're planning on making a homemade pie from scratch 100%. So here's the pie crust that I've been boasting about. And before I add my pie filling, I'm going to brush the edges just with some egg. I separated 1 egg from the egg white and the yolk. We don't want to use the egg white. We can just use the yolk. And I'm just going to use my kitchen brush to brush on the yolk. The yolk is going to prevent our pie crust from burning, and it's also going to give us that nice kind of like glossy sheen. That's pretty much why people do this to pies, is to kind of give it that beautiful golden sheen look without your pie crust looking dry or burning and not too pretty. So this is going to make it beautiful. Now it's time for us to add that yummy pie filling mix. Also, guys, before you add the mix, please feel free to just taste it a little bit, not too much, because we do have the raw egg and I don't want you to get sick or anything, but definitely just taste it a little bit, just to make sure it's sweet enough. You can add more cinnamon. Try not to add too much allspice and nutmeg, because those spices are really strong and they can kind of overpower the sweetness of the sweet potato pie, and they can easily take over the taste of your pie by just adding too much nutmeg or too much allspice. It can definitely go the wrong way when making a sweet potato pie. I've done it before, so professionals do it. You'll do it, but I've made the mistakes so you guys won't have to. Make sure we smooth them all. We'll smooth that mix all out. We want it nice and smooth. We're trying to get it around to the edges. And as you can see, I didn't add all of the mix at one time. I kind of just added maybe about 2 or 3 times just to be sure. And here is the final product before the oven. So we're going to place this in the oven on 350 degrees. It's already ready for us and ready for our pie. And after 1 hour and 20 minutes, here we go. So 1 hour and 20 minutes in the oven, middle rack or the rack underneath the middle rack, not necessarily the last one at the bottom. I have 4 racks in my oven, so this was on the 3rd rack. If you only have 3, please use your middle rack. But if you have 4 racks like I do, then you can place it on the 3rd, just to prevent our pie crust from burning. And it's cooking beautiful. It's not going to give it that super dark look. It's going to be nice and golden, just like this. But you definitely don't want to bake your pie too high up. Also, this is a deep dish pie. So because it's a deep dish pie, I baked it for 1 hour, 20 minutes. And look how beautiful it is, guys. Look, isn't it beautiful? You see what that egg did to our crust? It gives it that glossy holiday look. It looks so good. It smells so good. I'm excited about this pie. My guests were too. That's why they dug in before anything. But before I allowed them to cut and dig into it, you want to cool it about an hour. The reason why we cool it for about an hour or more is because we want our pie to set. Once it has set, then you can pretty much slice it nice and smooth and even and pretty, and get you some nice pretty pieces out. If you cut it too soon, then your pie might sink a little, or it's just pretty much going to be more messy. So this is how I decided to serve my guests. I love white plates. It's kind of like a canvas to me. But if you don't have white plates, whatever plate you have at home will work just fine. And please stay tuned to the end of this video, because I'm going to show you how to get this nice little fork design just using cinnamon and a fork. I topped it with some Cool Whip, and that is how she looks, guys. See that crust? You definitely want to try out my crust recipe, my pie crust recipe that I posted. I posted that earlier today. So you guys have 2 recipes in one day. And here is another look of the pie. As you can see, it is disappearing. But the point of this video is I just want to basically show you guys the thickness of the pie crust and how easily and smooth the pie slices come out once it has been cooled down. Now, it was like 90% cool, still a little bit warm, but I love warm pies, so it's great. And this is how we get that beautiful plating. So all you need is a fork. So I placed my fork on my white plate. You grab some cinnamon, and you basically just covered the fork with the cinnamon. So don't move your fork until you covered the fork completely with your cinnamon, especially getting the head of the fork. You definitely want to cover that just so you can get those details out. And then lift your fork. Ta-da! You see? So all you have to do is add your pie slice to this, and your cake, your pie, is ready to go. Thank you. As always, thank you guys for liking, subscribing, and see you next time.